was 22 years old when I came to prison.
I was 30 years old when I went to prison.
I was at the age of 19. I had just turned 19.
Hi, I'm Chris, and I help life-sentenced men transition from institutionalized prison life back into society. Every one of our men has already served 25 to 45 years in prison. I serve on the board of the Corrections Transition Program at Everglades Correctional Institution in Miami, Florida. I teach these men life skills and how to speak, listen, and think, so when they get paroled, they become assets to their communities rather than liabilities of the state. Welcome to Men Going Home. I'm Chris Wolfe, and we've got another great show for you today because we are the only show that brings you access to a segment of society very few people know anything about. Men who have spent more than 30, 35, and even 40 years in prison. We'll talk to them about their crimes, their life in prison, and what their transition back into the free world was like after all those years. Now, before we welcome today's special guest, please welcome my good friend and co-host of this show, Andy Korge. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. Great to be here. Remember, you can catch the podcast on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, and like and friend us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Andy, last week's guest, Troy Martin, fascinating man, young man still. He was 19 years old, got a life sentence for first-degree murder, grew up in the Overtown neighborhood of Miami. What was your take on Troy Martin?
Well, a few things, Chris. The first thing is something that has happened in impoverished areas, urban areas throughout America, and that is kids at a young age, teenagers, and in Troy's case, he was 14 years old, that drop out of school because they see the allure of what is happening on the streets in their community, selling drugs, making lots of money at a young age. There's an allure to that, and that was the thing that really got Troy sort of into a criminal life to start with. And it was an epidemic, especially during those years when Troy was at that age. So that was one thing that really hit me hard. The sadness of all of that, dropping out of school because he knew he could make a lot of money selling drugs on the street of Overtown.
And another example of a juvenile offender who didn't really understand the consequences of his actions. Here he was growing up on the streets of Overtown selling drugs. These guys from Opelika are trying to kill him, and he takes matters into his own hands and kills the man who was trying to kill him. And when the judge pronounced his sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years, he was dumbfounded. He thought this was self-defense, and he didn't understand the consequences of his actions. And that's another issue, that juveniles are still tried and sentenced as adults, and there's very little consideration even to this day on crimes committed by juveniles.
Yeah, and there was a kind of a theme that keeps coming up in these programs, which was, he knew these guys were after him.
Correct.
And he had three choices: either kill the people coming after him, be killed by them, or going to the authorities and letting know that these guys were after him, trying to kill him. And that was not an option for him.
No.
And the whole concept of snitching, although a lot of these guys, almost universally, every show we've had, someone snitched on them, and that's how they got caught.
And he also said that the situation there has not changed, and people in Liberty City and Overtown still take matters into their own hands and do not go to the police.
Yeah, and it was sad to me, Chris, because he struck me as just a really bright guy. And when I looked at him and talked to him before the show and after the show, I saw somebody who, if he had stayed in school, if he had the allure of that money on the streets of Overtown selling drugs had not, got him to drop out of school. I mean, he became a law clerk during his time in jail.
Throughout his jail time.
Yeah, throughout his jail time. So he was a smart guy. He's a smart guy and could learn a lot and probably would have thrived in society had he not taken that route. It was sad to me.
Well said. Well said. Let's introduce today's guest and hear about his story. Today's guest, Jerry Arline, was sentenced to life in prison after being convicted of first-degree murder at the age of 19. He was paroled after 11 years, then spent another 29 years in prison for robbing a bank in 1993. He has survived over 40 years in prison in some of the country's most violent prisons, was finally paroled in 2012, and he is here today to tell his story. Please welcome my friend and guest, Jerry Arline. Welcome, Jerry.
Hey, welcome. It's nice to see you guys, man. I'm blessed. That's all I can tell. All I can say is I'm blessed, and I enjoy myself.
Well, I know you had a little trouble finding this place. You ended up way west, but we
I'm
got you
telling
here,
you.
and we're glad you made it.
Oh, man.
Jerry, you were born in Liberty City in 1945, which is hard to believe
Right.
because you don't look a day over 50 years old. But you were born in Liberty City in 1945.
Yeah.
What was Liberty City like in the 40s and 50s when you were young? I know your father moved to Opelika, but what is your earliest memories of Liberty City?
Liberty City to me was, even though I was younger, it was bad. When I say bad, bad. You know, people killing each other, running around, stealing, and telling on each other. It's just that I didn't like Liberty City until my daddy and him. He just grabbed all us up, my siblings, and we moved to Opelika.
Well, yeah, hold on one second, because you said that at a certain point, how old were you, 4 or 5? Your father said Liberty City is just too rough.
Yes.
I got to move the family out of here. Was there something that happened, or was it just the everyday violence of Liberty City?
Too much crime. We couldn't take it. My mom, them, my sister, them, they wanted everybody together to stay together, and we just did what we can do. You know?
And you had a big family. Your mother was
Right.
a domestic worker. She cleaned
Right.
homes. Your
Yes.
father was an auto mechanic.
Right.
You had total 10 additional brothers and sisters.
Right.
6 brothers and 4 sisters.
Right.
Money was tight. What was that like after your parents moved to Opelika? What was your life like in Opelika with such a big family?
Well, in Opelika, it was better than Liberty City because my father and my mom was the two who worked, and the rest of us, we just did what we can do. You know, we go here, we go there, eat with other families and stuff like that. And
What was the
But the-
age difference of the children in your family? You were born in 45, so the 11 children spanned what ages?
I was, oh my goodness, I'm gonna tell you, they was older than me, so I happened to be one of the youngest ones, you know, which was 1, 2, 3,
Right.
3, 4 of us was the youngest. The rest of them was all growner than us, you know, and they did what they can do.
And you were born Gerald Arline, and your
Right.
twin sister was born Geraldine Arline, correct?
Yeah, yes.
Is she still alive?
No, she passed in '96.
They've all passed except for one, correct?
All except for one. Just me and my sister left. So
And what was interesting was that money was tight.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that to me the other day, and you felt very poor growing up.
Right.
And each child was not only expected but told at age 18 you have to move out of the house.
right.
Talk about that.
I was in high school when my dad told me I had to leave because he had too many mouths to feed. And doing that, I felt so bad for myself. I went out stealing, you know,
How old were you when you started stealing?
17.
17. Hold on a second, 'cause I think there was a few incidences even before that.
Uh-huh.
But you attended Rainbow Park Elementary School.
Right.
Were you a good student?
I was all right. Went to the special class until, you know,
Did you like school?
yeah, I love school.
And then you went on to early high school. You were a star athlete. Talk about that. What did you excel in?
Track, football, and I love basketball. It's just that I had fun when I was.
What was the last year of school you completed?
I didn't complete school. I got a GED.
Why? But you didn't graduate from high school, but were you in 8th grade or 9th grade?
No, I went to the 12th and didn't pass. So they said you have to,
So you never graduated from high school.
not from high school.
All right. And now, when I asked you if you had graduated from high school, you said no. I was trying to be a big boy, and you
Right.
started to get into crime. But you actually got into crime at about age 15 or 16, correct?
Right.
How did that all happen?
Oh, just stealing and, you know, fighting and just doing everything, man. It's different here today, you know. The kids are not like they used to be. They are even crazier, so.
When you say crazier today, how are they crazier today than they were when you were growing up?
See, we respected the elderly. We didn't snatch pocketbooks or do this and do that crazy stuff. But somebody you knew, 'cause you never knew when you might have your sister not doing it. She's not stealing or anything. My sisters, but my older brothers and sisters always brought us something to eat.
Right.
And so on.
We talked about being poor and the effect of being poor on your life. I think at a certain point, you had said to me that you wanted to be somebody, and you were jealous of people who dressed nicely.
Right.
And you wanted to start wearing nice clothes. And you would actually, at 15, 16, break into stores and steal clothing, correct?
Right.
Was that for your own consumption, or were you selling the stolen merchandise?
No, it was for me and my sister. I always thought about me and my sisters.
Geraldine?
And Jeanette. So,
Okay.
and those two, we was blessed because my sister and them told me always be careful when you go out there. So they know what was happening, So even with groceries, you break in a grocery store and nobody would know. We'll come back with a cart full of stuff and I give it to my sister. That's after I had been kicked out of the house. So.
Well, you would steal from stores, and there was a distinction between stealing from a store and somebody, as you mentioned, who had snatched a purse. Because you once witnessed somebody snatch a purse from a woman.
Right.
You ran that person down, and you made them go back to the victim and return the purse. Talk about that. What was the difference between snatching a purse and breaking into a store?
Well, when you snatch a purse, you never know when that's your mom, your sister, or somebody you know, or some old lady. It's just that I don't believe in stealing or snatching up from a older person because you never know when your mom might get her purse snatched or something like this. And oh man, that hurt me.
You had compassion, and you
Right.
didn't think that people should steal from individuals like that.
Yes, that's how. That's
So
how I was
stealing
raised.
from a store is more impersonal. You're stealing from an entity, not an individual.
Yes, it is.
I remember Grover used to say that. Remember Grover would rob, and he would say, "I don't want your money. I just want the money in the safe."
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's
So,
right.
all right. So you actually, you mentioned stealing groceries. You had a sister, and your sister had 6 children. So you would go into grocery stores and steal groceries for her. You weren't selling them; you were giving them to your family. How do
Right.
you steal groceries from a grocery store?
You just steal. I even worked in the store, but they never knew I was stealing. It's just that I had bags of stuff, and then we always take the bags out to the trash. In that trash bag would be groceries. What we had. So when I say what we had, it's what we ate. And my dad always went, "Where are you getting this stuff from?" So I just told him. Everybody just told me to be careful.
Did you tell him you stole the stuff?
Yeah.
And was he okay with that?
He was okay. He did what he had to do. He had to work. So
Right.
I never did get a beating for it or anything. So they always told me to be careful. Even my sisters,
Now, you had a turning point at age 19, a serious crime, but you dropped out of school. So between you dropping out of school and a serious crime at 19, what were you doing with your life at that time? Were you working? You were just stealing? What were you doing?
No, I was working.
Where?
Able Builders.
Okay.
Able Builders. I can't recall his name now, but he gave me a job. And doing that job, I was driving a truck. I drive trucks and stuff. I got my license and everything, and go here, go there, and deliver this and deliver that. When I say deliver stuff, was we call it
A delivery service?
no, not that one.
Okay.
It was construction equipment.
Okay.
That's what I delivered.
So now at age 19, turning point in your life, I want you to tell us the story. Because you had a friend of yours, and I don't know how much of a friend he really was. His name was Cy Porter.
No.
And you guys robbed a gas station. Now talk about how you went from, as you called it, the African-American part of town, across the railroad tracks into the white part of town, and you robbed a gas station.
Right.
Whose idea was that?
It was his. I don't know nothing about robbing like this, but I remember about stealing, like going in a store. But what he was doing, he said, "Let's go rob this gas station." And when we robbed that gas station, everything went down. He was with the police. And
Well, wait a minute. So you crossed over the railroad tracks
Yeah.
into the white neighborhood.
Right.
And you went into a gas station. The two of you went in together, and then what? He pulled out a gun. Did you know he had a gun?
No, I didn't.
So he went up and said, "Give me your money."
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened?
Yeah, he gave him the money. No, which I got the money, but he said, just do what you do. And by me running back across the track to get away, he came back. I hear something say, boom, boom, boom. And, I said, oh, my goodness. And after that, we split up. We split the money up. And
You know how much money it was?
about $3,000.
About $3,000.
Yeah.
So he went in. You didn't know there was a gun.
No.
He said, "Give me the money." The man gave him the money, and then on the way out, you were out the door, and then he just turned and shot
And that's what made me
unnecessarily.
that what made me even scarier, and I got mad at him because I don't know what was going on. But after we split the money, the police came and found out what was happening.
But hold on 1 second, because were you visibly and audibly upset with him after the robbery? Like, why did you shoot this guy? You
Yeah.
didn't have to shoot him.
Yes.
And what did he say?
He just, how your guys curse and stuff like
Yeah.
this. Oh, well, you got what you can get. So I said, well, he split. And in fact, he even took more than I did. So
Right. Okay. Now you were saying a week and a half later, the police show up at an apartment you're living at. Now you weren't living with your parents at this point because you're 19 years old.
yes, I was living with my parents.
Oh, okay. I thought they made you move out after 18.
Yeah, but I would always come back and see my mom.
Okay. So they went back to your parents' house, and you were there.
Right.
What happened?
Well, when they came in, they had a shotgun. About long as that's my first time seeing a shotgun.
Right.
So I said, oh my God. So they said, don't run, we're gonna shoot you. So I said, okay. So I came down the steps, and next thing you know, they handcuffed me and stuff like this. And my sisters and them was crying. My mom and them was home at the time, and I went to jail. They took me to jail.
So they just arrested you. Did you know at the time why you were being arrested?
Yes.
They told you you're being arrested for the.
Armed robbery of a gas station, and come to find out it was Cy Porter. And Cy Porter, he just turned everything on me, like.
But here's a question that I have, and Andy, maybe you're thinking the same thing. Why would Cy Porter turn you in unnecessarily if they weren't looking at him? Like, why did he just decide to, call the police and tell them that you did this robbery and killed this gentleman?
Well, Cy Porter at the time, during that time, he was working with the police, and I didn't know that. But the police said, you don't want to go to jail, tell me what's happening. So he told him that Jerry Arline, shot the guy and blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't understand it myself. So this officer, Martin, that's all I can remember.
Officer Martin from Opelika. You said he didn't like you.
No, because I was famous in school, running
because
track.
you were an athlete?
Yeah, and he didn't like that. I mean, a lot of guys on the street, we all stayed together, but me, he just didn't. He tried to run me over with his car and stuff like that, but he got hung with he tried to run me. He got hung the clothesline, and that was really.
So he just had it in for you.
Yeah.
So, all right, so let's just, to be clear, so the police come to you, they arrest you for the armed robbery and murder of this gas station attendant.
Right.
Now, Cy Porter's the one who turns you in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he is friends with this Officer Martin from Opelika, correct?
Right.
So, did you try to explain to the police what happened? You admitted you were there.
I was admitted I was there, but it's just that the police, he didn't care,
Officer Martin didn't care.
Yeah, he just wanted to see me go away, get put away. I said, okay.
So did you get an attorney, a public defender?
A public pretender. Yeah, they gave me one, but he looked like he worked it more with them than he did me.
So he was trying to just get you to plea it out. I mean,
yeah,
he wasn't really listening to.
Right.
What'd you call him? You called him he wasn't a public defender. He was a public pretender.
That's what he was.
So
And
right. So now, correct. Where was Cy Porter in all this? Was he just free out on his own, and nobody even wanted to know any information from him?
He had sisters. I think he was the only boy out of the family, and he had an older sister, and we even had a fight with the older girl and stuff like that before the robbery and stuff like that. And
so Cy Porter tells Officer Martin that you were the shooter, you were the robber. Cy Porter's out of it. He's not even involved in this crime, correct?
Right.
And they're charging you with first-degree murder, and your attorney is now, your public defender, he's basically believing their story against yours, and he's telling you that you should plead guilty?
Yes. He said if I didn't want to go to the gas chamber, that's what they put it. And I was really scared because I never been locked up like that before.
You had never been arrested?
No.
What did I tell you the other day? Andy, I told him, I said, I don't think he had a chance. He was 19 years old, 1965 in Miami. You have the shooter and a corrupt police officer both in collusion pointing the finger at, now granted, you were there and somebody was killed, serious crime, but I don't think you had a chance.
And a bad attorney on top of it.
And a bad attorney on top of it.
Yes, goodness. But he wound up, I don't know if he was getting killed. He got killed or died.
Well, you mentioned that a year and a half later he died. Now, you weren't sure how he died.
Yeah.
Was he killed in a robbery?
I think so, but I think my sister told me when she used to come visit me when I was in prison, she told me that, Martin, you ain't got to worry about Martin no more. And after that, Cy Porter, he wound up with the same thing. He got killed. So both the officer and him get killed. See, I had a lot of people that admired me. You know, I was a track runner. I played football. I loved baseball. So, and everybody was crying and stuff. And
they were upset that you were involved in this very serious crime.
I had the coach from Florida A&M. They tried to get me out of jail to come back and run track for them and stuff like that, but they wouldn't accept.
No, it was too serious a crime.
Right.
So, 1965, you're at the Miami County Jail.
Right.
How long were you in jail awaiting your trial?
About a year and a half.
And talk about the violence in Miami-Dade County Jail in 1965. It must have been another world.
Yes, it was. You had to be careful, you know, especially for the younger guys. And
why? Because you had said that young men were raped openly.
Openly, and that I didn't agree with that. So. You did that. The police, the guards will walk around and stuff like that. Guys will take your lunch or breakfast or anything. If you don't get up and eat, you done lost that. So
you said at the time there were 4, 6, 12 guys in a cell.
Right.
And the young guys were openly targeted and raped in the open, and the guards would just walk by and
see nothing.
And they would say, see, that's what you get for being here. You shouldn't have got yourself in jail.
Exactly.
How do you prepare yourself for going into jail? I mean, you said you had to be prepared for it. What was there anything in particular mentally you did to prepare yourself?
You hear so much about jail. You know, when you do go into jail, if you with a bunch of guys and they'll know you, if you're all together, if you stay on one side, they stay on the other side. But you know, you can't mingle with anybody. See, like the young guys, we protected them. They protected me. So guys was older than me. They knew that I was an athlete, and you know.
Was there a lot of racial division in prison? The black guys not that.
No, they didn't.
Well, we're in jail at this point, right?
Right.
No, we didn't.
There was
do
no
that.
racial division.
No.
Everybody seemed to just get along amongst themselves.
Steal and stuff like that.
But you always kind of looked out for the young guys because they were sort of targeted, correct?
Right. And I've seen so much that, you know, I really hated it. You know, these guys, you know, their parents don't send them no money, no nothing. So you got to look out for him. See, even though I got money, we looked out.
So let's talk about your trial. A year and a half passes by. You go to trial. Your attorney is telling you that you really need to accept a guilty plea, otherwise they're going to press for the electric chair.
That's exactly, and that scared me to death. I mean, it scared me so bad, you know. And even my sister was telling me, when you get a life sentence at that time, you only do 5 years or 7 years on a life sentence, but you got to behave. You can't go to jail or prison.
Yeah, because back then, Andy, we'll talk about the difference of life sentences.
Right.
Back then, prior to 1995, a life sentence meant you were sentenced to life until you were paroled.
Right.
After 1995, it became a life sentence was 25 years mandatory.
It's mandatory.
And then you could be considered for parole. And even the guys in our program, on average, get out after about 32 years, and some guys after 40 years. So, in essence, I think your attorney was probably right at that time. He said, just take the life sentence and you'll
Right.
probably get out.
And I was scared of going to the gas chamber or whatever they put you in. So they put a bag over your head, and I've seen this, not while I was in prison, but you heard so much and stuff like this. While we watching TV, they show all crazy stuff. So I said, oh my goodness.
And you were
Yeah,
nine-
but the reality of it is you didn't commit the crime.
No, I didn't.
So you didn't have the thought in your mind that, hey, I want to fight this.
It's not that. It's my parents and them was really poor, so I had to take that and do what I can do.
Well, but then again, Andy, we go back and in all due respect to Gerald, he was guilty of the crime because we talk about a lot of the guys say they hung around the wrong group of people growing up.
Right.
He hung around this guy Cy, which was a mistake, and he
I'm
made a
telling
bad
you.
choice and a bad decision to participate in the murder. Now, because he was involved in the armed robbery and somebody was murdered, Gerald gets sentenced to.
Right.
He gets charged with the murder. Actually, appropriately, the inappropriateness was that they let this guy Cy
Off completely.
off completely and never charged him. So you go ahead and you plead guilty.
Yeah, I had to.
You were 19 years old
And scared.
and scared.
And scared, I always thought about my family, especially my mom and my dad.
Were your parents at the trial?
Yep. And they cried and everything, and when they heard the sentence and stuff like that, well, we're gonna send him to prison for a life sentence, and they say he have to do 7 years at the time. And by me not having to stay in any trouble, you don't do no violence, no beating up nobody or stuff like that. You just do what you can do, and that was me.
How did that make you feel? I mean, your parents are in the courtroom sobbing. I mean, did it give you a feeling of guilt or disappointment? I mean,
Yeah. When I was in jail, I realized what they was doing, so I said, okay. Even when I was in prison, both my parents passed. And by me being in jail, prison, they say if you got somebody to take you home, to your funeral, you can go. And I didn't have no police, none of that. Nobody sending me with them or stuff like that.
Right.
no support system.
No, I didn't. And during the prison, when I went to the funeral, they say, do they have anybody to pick me up to go to the funeral? Yes. I went to the funeral by myself, me and my sister. My sister, the one, Janet, the one living now.
They actually let you out of prison to go to the funeral?
They let me out of prison for doing everything.
Because they don't really do that anymore, do they? I don't think so.
Yes.
They still do.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the men in our program have talked about their parents dying. I didn't know any of them were ever let out. So your first prison, they ship you off to probably the worst prison of all in Florida, one of the worst in the country, Florida State Prison, 1965. You were now 20 years old. How violent was Florida State Prison when you were there?
It was violent, but the guys from Miami, they stayed together. We hung together. Guys from Jacksonville, they hung together. The guys from Jacksonville and what is that? Jacksonville and Tampa, I think. They hung together. The guys from Miami, Fort Lauderdale, they hung together. So we played football together, basketball together. Miami, all the guys played, and we was the best. So.
You were 20 years old. You weren't married yet, were you, or were you married?
No, I wasn't married.
When you went to prison for the first time, you were not married.
No.
Now, you did mention that for some reason you never really got caught up in the violence. You never had a lot of fighting.
No.
You seemed to get along pretty well. I mean, I would guess you were a pretty laid-back guy then. You are now.
Yeah.
And you seem to get along with everybody. So how did you survive? You spent 11 and a half, not 7. You spent 11 and a half years at Florida State. Well, in prison.
In prison.
Between Florida State and Belle Glade. But how did you survive without really much trouble other than a scar on your forehead? And how did you get that scar?
I got that in prison. There's a guy, he tried to, I'm not into guys and stuff like that. And one guy, he tried me and...
I mean, sexually, and he was coming on to you.
And I'm not into that, so I don't do men.
Right.
I've never raped anybody.
Right.
None of this, and I don't like it. I don't like it now.
So what happened? So he was mad that you
Yeah.
shunned his advances to you, and then
Yeah.
he got in a fist fight with you or hit you with a brick, didn't he?
Yeah, at the brick plant, where they make brick doing the prison stuff like that. When he was talking out loud and this and that and this, and I just snapped and hit him first, and next thing I know, he picked up a rock and hit me. So, and that's when they shipped me. They kept me in confinement, but they
shipped you to Belle Glade.
Shipped me to Belle Glade.
And how was Belle Glade different from Florida State Prison?
Yeah.
How so?
It was you got custodies, community, minimum, close custody, and
Gotcha.
super custody. Them two you can't get out. You can't, and they look at your record and see how
Right.
you. Oh, this guy, he's all right. See, during my time, I worked for the superintendent, the lieutenants and stuff. They used to bring us stuff, pizza and stuff like
Right.
this, and Jerry, I don't care what you do with it, get rid of it. Don't take it in. I worked outside the gate.
But that was, I think there you're talking about the drug dealing that goes on in prison, correct?
Yeah.
You worked at the canteen, and they would bring you things that contained drugs, and then you were to take it places?
Some officers, and then they try you. The officers try you. When I meant try you, about you taking stuff in the...
So the officers were dealing drugs,
Yeah. it's
and
a
they were
lot of-
making money, and they
They
were
were.
using the prisoners to distribute drugs through the prison.
Even the women. And that's happened just before they closed the prison, before this disease went around.
Yeah, before COVID.
Yeah, down where we go and talk to the guys.
At Everglades Correctional Institution.
Right.
And that was pretty common. I mean, at Glades, was it common in all the prisons you saw in terms of guards bringing in contraband like that?
Right. See, they throw phones over the gate, and what else? Bring your food.
Cell phones.
Yeah, cell phone.
Cell phones, yeah.
That's the main thing. If you can get a cell phone. I did some stuff myself after I got out of prison and going down the Everglades. You got a couple of guys, they don't get anything. And
Well, who are these guys? You prisoners or guards?
they are prisoners.
Okay.
I've gave money, $30, up to $30. Yeah, this yours, this yours, this yours. But them guys wasn't getting anything. I didn't give you that. $30 for you, $30 for you, $30 for you. I didn't give you anything.
Oh, gotcha. Because you're not allowed to do that there. You're not allowed to give people cash or anything like that.
Right.
So you get paroled on February 21st of 1978. You're actually paroled. You do 11 and a half years at Florida State and Belle Glade for a first-degree murder, which is pretty amazing because today you would have done at least probably 30 years.
Right.
So what did you do? You got paroled. You're in your mid-30s.
Yes.
What was your life like? You get out of prison.
I don't know. I really was scared when I got out of prison, and when
What were you scared of?
going back or something like that.
Because you were on parole. You get out,
Right.
you're on parole. All right, so you're on parole. So what did you do? You get a job?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
I did construction equipment. Like what they call them. They put
Right. All right.
post yours.
Okay.
Put
And,
'em on
you,
budget.
you get married?
I got married. Yeah.
You got married?
Yeah.
You have any children?
2.
You have one biological, one step?
Yeah.
So you married a woman who had a child from a previous marriage or a
Who-
previous relationship?
The one now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and me, we all right. She's retired. So
So you got when you remember when you married her? Shortly after prison?
yeah, me, a dad, my stepson. It wasn't my stepson. They was all there. So
All right.
even though our parents are gone, so they passed.
So you're out of prison. You're paroled on a first-degree murder charge. You're out of prison for 15 years. And you had mentioned to me, this is interesting, and I want you to talk about the psychological aspect of this.
Okay.
You're working at Miami International Airport,
Yeah.
right? You're working at the airport. You're doing kind of maintenance. You're cleaning up the runways. You're doing lawn work and
Right.
landscaping work. And you had told me that your wife at the time you used the word she was nagging you about you're not making enough money.
Right.
And she was a PE instructor in public schools, correct?
Right.
And she was saying that you weren't making money, and you referenced the term. It was kind of an ongoing nagging, and you said I just can't take that. Talk
Right.
about that.
Can't do it now. No,
Nothing's changed.
No, but we I try and do everything she says. I mean, she's nice and everything, respectable. We don't fuss each other out. But we might snap at each other every now and then.
Right.
Baby, can you go get me this? Can you go get me that? I said, come on, baby, give me a break. So.
Right.
Other than
Just
that, we
normal
don't-
stuff.
Yeah, we don't curse each other. And,
Right. That's disrespectful.
I don't do that to no women.
Right.
Not even my sisters or nobody.
But back when in 1993, you're 38 years old, and I think I got the impression that the nagging was too much, and you realized you got to find a way to make some money.
Right.
So you leave work
From the airport.
from the airport, and you rob a bank.
Right.
Talk about that.
Well, when I robbed this bank, I gave them a note. No guns, no nothing.
Didn't have a gun on you?
No. At the time, we mostly cashed our checks there at the bank and right there.
Tell me this. Where was the bank? On Lejeune Road in
on
Miami?
Lejeune, yeah, right across from.
Right near the airport.
Right. So
Did you have a plan? Did you have a plan? How are you going to do this? You didn't wear a mask, did you?
No, it was a spur of the moment, and
You just decided that day to rob the bank.
right. And when I went and robbed the bank, after I gave the lady she gave me what she had. I think it was about 15,000 or 1,500 or
Was it just you, or did you have partners?
just me. No,
Just
no.
you. You decided I'm going to rob this bank. You don't
Right.
put on a mask. You drive into a bank that you've been to before.
Yes.
I'm sorry
And-
for interrupting. You hand her a note and you say, "Give me the money."
Right. And when she gave me the money, I got what I can get. I mean, she put it in a little bag, put it in a bag. Okay, I don't know how the police got there that quick, but on the way back to the airport, the police was right behind me, but the light was there. So while they waiting for the light, the police, I can see him getting out of the car, but I took some money out of the bag and just threw it up in the air, and you see everybody, like.
Wait a minute. Let's back up here because this is a lot of moving parts here.
I see that.
Okay, so you give her a note. She gives you $15,000. You just walk out of the bank. Nobody
Right.
stops you. You
Nobody
get in your
stops.
car
And leave.
and leave. Did anybody follow you out?
No. If
Okay,
they did,
so you get in your car, and before you know it, you're at an intersection, and you can see the police car with the lights going around.
right. And
Go ahead.
And when I took some money out of the bag and threw it up in the streets and everything, everybody just stopped and was getting out, just grabbing money and stuff like that. And the police was I don't know how they got me, but they didn't pick me up right then. Excuse me. I took the money home.
So you
What
created a
left of it.
traffic jam.
Right.
With a feeding frenzy of cash. And then you take off, and you're able to get away, and you go back to your house.
Right.
Go ahead.
And when I get back to my house, I was married then. So I took the money and hid it up under the rug, what was left. And so when the police came and got me, I still didn't tell them where the money was. But that money it was lost. Because me and my wife, we was staying in an apartment. We stayed downstairs saying,
So wait. So now you hide the money. What room was it? The living room? Your bedroom?
no, it was our bedroom. me
Your
and my
bedroom.
wife.
So you hide the money, and you don't. At this point, your wife doesn't even know you just robbed the
She
bank.
no.
So you drive back to work.
Drive back to work.
What happens?
Come back, the police came. They say, do y'all have a Gerald All-Line work here? And they say, yes. And they say, oh, he's over there. We was in the room all eating, lunch and stuff. So when they came up, they told me to come outside, you know, not with their guns drawn and nothing like that. So they came out and told me, "Say you're under arrest for bank robbery." And
How did they know it was you?
well, I ran after I got the money to my car. I didn't park right in front of them. I parked them over. And so I guess somebody just was watching me and stuff. And I was kind of scared anyway. So when I made it to the light and the light stopped and I tossed the money up in the street, I said, "Oh, goodness." Now, listen, they got my tag.
But this was a bank you went into regularly?
Yeah.
It was a place you went into all the time, a bank, so they probably recognized
somebody recognized you.
Because let me see.
Yeah.
They had how many tellers? I think they had 4 tellers.
Right. So somebody recognized you.
Yeah,
They come to where you work and they arrested you.
Yeah.
So now they take you down to the police department.
Mm-hmm.
When did your wife find out that you had been arrested for armed robbery? No, not armed robbery. When did she find out you were arrested for robbery?
I gotta ask about that.
Was she mad?
Yeah.
What did she say?
Oh man. Now I'm gonna tell you the truth. Between her and her mom and stuff, and I heard so much, you know. Man, what are you doing?
She said that?
Yeah, her mom them and stuff like that.
So you're back in jail.
Yeah, I'm back in jail.
Another trial?
Another.
Yeah. And they find you guilty of robbery.
But yeah.
And then you end up going back into prison for another 29 years.
That's what I still got to look at it because I haven't looked at that yet.
Well, the state of Florida said that you were in from 1993 until 2012. That's 29 years. So how had prison changed after 15 years?
Prison, it got softer. It's not bad like it used to be because
wasn't quite as violent.
No, not then. So
how did you survive 41 years? You did 41 years of incarceration. How did you survive 41 years?
You know, I didn't think about it. I was just trying to get out of prison because I know they weren't gonna keep me long because I know I was under a life sentence with how many years?
Well, you had done 11 and a half years. You were out for 15 years. Then you robbed a bank. What? And then you got another 29 years. Let me ask you this question. You know, why do you think you robbed the bank? Was it your wife was nagging you about money? Do you think you wanted to go back to prison?
No, not really. I was just trying to make her happy, you know. So she, you know how women nags, and that's what happened. So she was nagging me so much and stuff like that. She said, "Baby, we got to get this and get that. You don't do this, I don't do that." I said, "Oh goodness." So after that,
so I'll show you. I'll rob a bank.
I went and robbed the bank. They had no business robbing the bank.
So you go back to prison, but my question is this: you did another 29 years.
I don't see it. Seriously, I don't see I'm doing 29 years. It's just that with this program they got, I mean, I learned so much.
We're almost there. We're almost there because you did get paroled. So now you're out. You were paroled in 2012. Are you still on parole?
Yes.
Okay. And what are the rules of parole? What do you what does your life look like these days?
Mine is good. I mean, no drinking, no smoking, no drugs. I don't do that anyway.
But you're not allowed to drink, correct?
A beer every now and then, but you know.
But are you subjected to random urinalysis?
No. They tried it, but they said no. I don't. You know, sometime when I was doing that, I said, you know what, I done did benign drinking beer and stuff like that. That's as far as I go. Okay. I tried liquor one time, and that was my mother-in-law. That's when they gave me after I married a daughter and stuff like that. My boss man said, "You not his boss man, you his partner, main man." He threw me on the shoulder. That's all I remember.
You drank too much liquor and it.
I'm not used to liquor.
Right. Liquor's quicker.
I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So now, so you've been paroled in 2012. It's my understanding that the parole officers don't think you're too much of a challenge. You're now 75 years old. You look 55, and You get along with your parole officer?
Yes, I was told I'm coming to his office. I supposed to come every year. He said, Gerald, I don't want to see you no more until December. So
I don't think they're worried about you anymore.
no, they don't. He said, why can't I have other guys like you?
Look, Gerald, if you were sitting in front of a room full of 19-year-old Gerald Arlines, what advice would you have for them to not make the same mistakes you've made?
I tell them where I've been. They don't want to go to prison. They don't want to see what's happening in prison because I think they still do bother with kids and stuff. Not older guys, younger guys. Take guys and, this is what they're doing now. I didn't tell you, Chris, but
What?
A lot of them take the guy's money that I want you to go do this and do that. Not do it, but, I need this and I need this from the canteen and stuff like that. Man.
This is going on in prison now.
It's going in
So
prison.
somebody gets a young guy and gives him money and said, this is what I want you to do, like you
Right.
work for me?
Right.
That's going on now?
That's going on now. They even sell drugs. And I hate it, but I don't say nothing. I told Anna.
Sure, I know Anna.
Anna, I have to tell Anna stuff. I say, Anna, and
Anastasia Steele.
yeah, we just like that. Me, her, our mom,
Yeah,
sisters.
yeah.
And it's just that she said, well, I ain't got to worry about you. And she tell me, she said, every time, she said, Jerry, you know what? My mom worries so much about you. I said, she don't have to worry about that. She said, I know, because I'm going to beat you myself. And I like that. Lady.
You went.
Let me ask you
Go
if
ahead,
I
go
could.
ahead.
You think that kids, you at 18, 19 years old, if they had a really good grasp of what occurs in prison and what life is like in prison, you think it would make them think twice about some of the crimes they're committing?
Yeah, I do.
What
That's
would you
fine.
like to tell those kids that what goes on that they don't want to be part of?
Oh, man.
Tell them. They're
I
listening.
I just have to tell you. I mean, going to prison is something you never want to do. You got to try and get your education, and you got to think about your family, your sisters, brothers, everybody. It's just that don't do what I did. I mean, I did some stuff you don't never want to see, even with the polices. But you don't do that no more. So
Is that stuff that you think about now, even now, many years later, some of the things you did and regret that?
it's just that when I watch TV now, I don't like what the people doing, especially when they got. You ever watch CSI?
Yeah,
Anything
sure,
About
sure,
the
of course.
rape and stuff. Oh, I don't like that. No, I be wanting to put them in jail myself.
Well, apparently rape still goes on.
Yeah.
The men tell me it's not quite as bad as it used
No,
to be.
not as
Because
bad.
now there's legislation, there's an enactment where it can actually add years to somebody's time if they're
Right,
convicted of
exactly.
rape inside of prison. So I think it still goes on. There's still some gang initiation stuff. A lot of more gangs at Everglades Correctional Institution than there used to be. But you were sent to the Corrections Transition Program at Everglades Correctional Institution where we met 10 years ago or more.
Yeah.
What did you learn at the Corrections Transition Program, or what did Dr. Sheeran teach you and the program teach you that you're using today that's helped you?
Oh, my attitude. I didn't have a bad attitude. It's just that when I'm writing, what is it? Journals. I worry about my journal. You gotta excuse me. You gotta write this, and you gotta write both sides.
Okay.
And a still they
Oh, they teach you not to waste paper and to write on both sides
and
of
we,
the paper?
we write both sides, and we even have to go to some programs. We go to. I wish I could have took Spanish though. I really miss that.
Last week's guest, Troy Martin, said the one thing that he will always remember about Dr. Sheeran is she said that whenever you're contemplating making a decision, to ask yourself, will this decision hurt me or hurt somebody else? Do you remember that? Do you live by that now?
Yeah. It would. Or me going back to jail or something like that. So.
Yeah. So talk about your life today.
Right. My life today is fun. My wife know I'm in at night at a certain time. She'll tell you I don't go nowhere. After 8 or after 7 something, she done took my shower and everything. We done ate and stuff.
Is
But
this the same wife that you were with back when you committed the robbery and went back
she
to jail?
remarried, and her husband passed, and we remarried again.
Wow.
She divorced you when you went to prison the second time.
First time.
Well,
Was
okay.
it the first time?
No, but you said you weren't married the first time you went to prison. So she divorced
No,
you.
I was married the first time,
Okay.
but she remarried. She divorced
She
me.
divorced you when you went to prison,
Yeah,
and then you remarried her when you got out of prison this time.
right.
Wow.
And we've been together ever since. I'm happy with her. We happy with each other. So.
And she's retired from the public school system.
Yes, 34 years. So
And up until COVID, you would volunteer. Dr. Sheeran says to always give back and help others.
we do
And
it.
you're helping the men at Corrections Transition Program. How are you helping them?
Like we do. Well, we have picnics. We throw picnics, paint houses. You know, giving back. We got a system we call giving back to society. We don't charge them,
That's nice.
and I like that when you give them the older people. So somebody house is not looking too good. We cut the yards, or trim the trees back. you
And
know.
what advice do you give the men? Because I've been there on Tuesday nights when you're there. What advice do you give the men who are still in prison waiting to be paroled?
Just be yourself, man. You know, you got to get away all that old crazy stuff. And this is what I like a guy. I think he went to up in Tampa. He's still in Tampa, and I'm glad of that because he done been back a couple of times.
Yeah,
and
Troy Martin? There's a lot of them come down from Tampa.
come from Miami too.
Okay.
And I remember a guy almost taught me. He said, "Jared, you better get your behind somewhere. I'm gonna beat your behind if you're not going to school and go to school and stuff like that." But I never played hooky. I don't like to play
Right.
hooky.
And you started a landscaping business after you got out that you're still running yourself, correct?
Yeah, it's just that I like what I'm doing, you know. But some people can get on your nerves. Jerry, can you go do this and can you do that and do this? And I say, oh man, please, you have to.
That's life.
Patience. That's what
life.
it takes.
Patience is a virtue.
I got two ladies calling me this morning, Miss K, Jerry, did you go check on my what is that, dryer? No, washing machine. It's a washing
Okay.
machine. Guy didn't give her a washing machine back, so I have to go back and tell him, man, did you fix the washing machine? It's still on 27th Avenue in Alabama.
So you're still working hard every
Yeah.
day.
Put it this way, if I don't work, I'll go crazy. I mean, it's just that.
You cut a lawn today, didn't you?
Yes.
Every day you
Yeah,
cut grass.
Yeah. No, baby, about 3 or 4. That's if I'm really working, you know. And I like to work about myself because you got people go in people's yard and want to steal this and steal that. Especially I got the old ladies down the street from me. And I just hate to see her cut her yard by herself.
Right.
I don't charge that lady a dime.
Really?
A dime.
All right. Well, listen, Jerry, I want to thank you so much for
Okay.
coming on our show today.
Oh,
Hopefully
thank
you can
you.
come back at some point in time.
Yes.
We're all very proud of you. You're doing well.
I thank you. I thank you.
Everybody always speaks highly of you, and you're a very respected
Yeah.
alumni of the Corrections Transition Program. Thank you for being here today.
Okay.
Andy, any last comments for today's show?
Well, no, it's great to meet you, Jerry, today,
thank
and
you.
and to see how well you're doing. And my God, I don't know what he's drinking every day
know.
to keep looking the way he does
I-
at 75. But man, I want some of that.
Well, maybe you should cut your own yard, and, and you can look
It's
like
a-
Jerry.
Maybe.
know,
maybe
all
You know,
right.
if I don't do something around the house, I get bored.
Of course.
You won't believe me washing clothes or washing the dishes and stuff. I do everything but cook. I don't know how to cook.
You and me both, my friend.
All right. Well, that does it for today. And thank you all so much for tuning in for another episode of Men Going Home here at our new home at the Man Live in Miami. And a very special thank you to our friends around the world who are taking their time to watch and listen to this program. A few that I can mention are Tom Corcoran in Delray Beach, Frank Ryan in Coral Springs, and Nono and John Hedstrom in Portugal. Thank you all so much for watching and supporting the show. Thank you all again so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.